Hello, I am coming to you again here. This is for the paired passage that is part of your ELA assignment on Wednesday, April 15th. Okay, so for that, I'm sure that you have done paired passages before, but if not, what you'll be doing is you'll be reading two passages that are related to one another. One of them will be nonfiction, meaning that it is based on true events that have happened, okay? And the other one will be fiction, in that it'll just be kind of like a story that you will read. But both of the two will be related in many aspects. Okay, so before you do that today, okay, what I would suggest is just taking a look at the titles of each one, maybe looking at the pictures down at the bottom of the passages, okay? And then also, uh, once you're done reading the passages, there will be 10 questions to answer. Actually, I mean, 9 or 10 questions to answer. Okay, the first five will all be multiple choice. Now, some of these questions, in fact, most of the questions, have some tricky wording to them, both in the questions and the answers. So you really have to pay attention to the key words in the questions and in the answers. And I've tried to help you out with that. On the passages, you should see some underlined parts that are kind of important to answer the questions, and you should also see that some of the questions have some words that are underlined as well. So pay attention to those, and that should help you figure out the answers to those questions a lot easier. Okay, so really look for those key words both in the passages and on the questions. Okay, so my advice would be to go over the questions first, because that way that will give you a focus for what you're looking for as you read the passages. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I have the passages in front of me here. So this is page 18 at the bottom, and it's questions 1 through 5, and it's unit 3 at the top. Okay, now the directions say the following are questions based on the passages training on an anthill and the means of survival. If needed, you may look back at the passages to answer the questions. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the questions. All right. Number 1 says, what is not true about the biathlon? And you'll see there are 4 choices there. Okay, so if it says which one is not true, then that means 3 of the answer choices there are true. Okay, and you are looking for the one answer choice that is not true. And I also kind of put a rectangle there around the word biathlon. So that's something you probably want to look for when you're reading the passage. Okay, and you'll probably see some details about what a biathlon is once you read the passages. Okay, number 2. This one's a vocabulary question. Okay, it says when someone keeps trying, they. Okay, and then you're going to look for a word that's like a synonym or a word that would mean that you keep trying at something. Okay, so you're going to look at all 4 of those words there. You might try to look and see if you can find some of those words in the passages, and then use your context clues from the passages to help you understand what each one of those words means, and then see which one you think is the most accurate meaning of to keep trying. Okay, so those words are survive, persevere, concentrate, and pay attention. Okay? So that's a vocabulary question. You're kind of going to use context clues from your passage to try to help you figure that one out. Number 3 says, both stories are about. Now, the real key word there is both. Okay? So, what are some of the main ideas from each story, and how are some of the main ideas from each one the same? And then which idea maybe is the main idea for both of the passages? Okay, so that one you definitely want to look at the answer choices too. Those can be kind of tricky, and you want to pay close attention to both passages, because I think there are 2 there that might seem like they fit really well, but you have to really take a close look, because one of them is not necessarily true for both passages, even though it might seem like it is. So really pay close attention to the details there. Number 4 says, Most likely, if Solberg, that's one of the characters in I believe the first passage, if Solberg was in the same race as Adrienne, she's the character in the other passage, he would what? Okay, so you'll have to look back at those passages, and then there's 4 choices there about things that he might do if he was in the same race as her. Okay, so you have to think about that. Which one of those things would he most likely, definitely do? I mean, he could do all of them, really, but which one would he definitely for sure do? He might not do some of the other ones. He could, but he might not. Okay, so which one would he for sure probably do? And then number 5, Adrienne thought about the gazelle and the lion, and then it gives you 4 reasons why she was thinking about the gazelle and the lion. Now, which one of those choices best would give her the reason for thinking about those 2 animals? Okay, and that'll make more sense once you read the article. Okay, so why was she thinking about a gazelle and a lion? Okay, so those are your 5 multiple choice. Those can be tricky, so just definitely read the questions carefully, read the answer choices carefully, and definitely look back at your passages and help use them to help you. Okay. On the next side, there are 4 more questions I want you to do. Okay. Number 6 says fill in each box with details from the story taking training on an anthill. Okay, and then there's 4 questions there. Who? And then wanted what? So what did the who want? They trained how? So how did the who train? And then because of that, because they wanted this and because they trained this way, they got what? So what did the who get as a part of doing those other 2 things? Okay, so that's number 6. You have to fill in each one of those squares, and you don't necessarily have to do that in complete sentences. Number 7 talks about the other passage, and it says, answer the questions to help keep clear what Adrienne was thinking. So a lot of that passage is about what she was thinking while she was doing something. So there's 3 questions about that. Okay, how fast should, being the key word, okay, should, how fast should a gazelle run? Okay. B, how fast should a lion run? And then C, who should run when the sun comes up and why? Okay, so these are all things that she is thinking about during the passage. So kind of record those details about what she is thinking. Next one, both 8 and 9 are summaries. Okay, so it says write 3 or more sentences that tell what each story is about. And then number 8 says training on an anthill. That's the first passage. And number 9 says the means of survival. That's the second passage. So you're just supposed to write a short summary about each one of those. In your summary, I would definitely try to answer the who, what, when, where, why, and how questions. Okay, definitely try to answer those if you can. And you might answer 3 or 4 of those questions in one sentence. That's fine. You don't need to write a certain sentence for each one of those questions. You might be able to answer all of those questions in one sentence. Okay? And then make sure you include any other really important details, okay, about the passage. Number 10 is something that you can do that you don't have to do. That's optional, okay? If that's something that interests you and you want to write about that, you may, but you do not have to. One other thing I want to mention before I start reading the passages is you can do this on the hard copy that I provided you, or if you would rather, I also created a Google form on your Google Classroom, and I've attached it to your Google Classroom page. So if you would rather answer all of these same questions on the computer instead of on the paper, you can, and that's going to be available on Google Classroom for you. Okay, so it's up to you. I don't care what you do, but if that's something you'd rather do it on the computer, that's fine. Go for it. Okay. All right, now I'm going to read the passages. Okay, the first one is phone fell. The first one is a nonfiction passage called "Training on an Anthill." Okay, training on an anthill. So I'm going to go ahead and read them. I'm going to take a look at the picture down at the bottom. Here we go. Magnar Solberg would lie down on an anthill. Doesn't sound like a very fun thing to do. The ants would swarm out of the ground and crawl up Solberg's legs. They would cover his entire face. It was, as Solberg said, awful. Yet Solberg did this time after time. What was his reason? Solberg was a Norwegian police officer who was training for the biathlon competition at the 1968 Olympic Winter Games. The biathlon is one of the most demanding Olympic winter events. It is a combination of cross-country skiing, so that's when you ski across a long area. You don't necessarily, a lot of times we think of skiing as going down a hill really fast, but you can also ski just like you would hike, like over a large area. So it's a combination of cross-country skiing and rifle shooting. For Solberg, the most critical time during the competition was the few hundred meters before each shooting phase. Then I had to concentrate on slowing down my pulse rate at least 50 beats in order to steady the rifle, said Solberg. So you got to think about, he's working really hard and his heart's going, he's going really fast trying to ski, but then he has to slow himself down so he can really focus his gun and hit the target the best that he can. So that would be difficult. As part of his training, Solberg would place a target 164 feet, or 50 meters, from an anthill. Then he would lie down on the anthill and shoot. He would try not to think about the ants and try to think only about his shooting. Solberg's unusual training paid off. At the Olympic Winter Games, he was the only contestant with a perfect no-miss shooting score. His shooting score, combined with his skiing time, the second fastest, earned him a gold medal. Solberg went on to win another gold medal for the same event in the 1972 Olympic Winter Games. To prepare, Solberg trained the same way as before. Solberg explained, "My ability to concentrate under those hot, painful conditions made the actual competition easy for me in the cold." Okay, so that's your first passage. Remember, that's nonfiction, so that Magnar Solberg actually did win those Olympic Games, okay, and that's what he did to train for them, okay? All right, let's go on to the next one. The next passage, now this one is fiction, it's not necessarily true, but it's a story, and it's kind of based on the same type of thing as what the other one was, and it's called The Means of Survival. As Adrian's legs pumped up and down, Adrian thought to herself, "Keep running and do not stop. Concentrate on keeping your pace. You must persevere." As Adrian's side began to hurt, Adrian told herself fiercely, "Don't think about the stabbing pain. Think about being a gazelle on the African savannah. Every morning you wake up knowing that you have to run faster than the fastest lion. Because if you don't run fast, you will be eaten. Focus on running fast." When Adrian's legs began to tighten up, Adrian was tempted to stop. "Persevere," she lectured herself fiercely. "You cannot give up. Think about being a lion on the African savannah. Every morning you wake up and know that if you don't run faster than the slowest gazelle, you'll starve to death. Focus on persevering and don't give up." Looking only at the ground directly in front of her, Adrian continued to speed. "Don't pay attention to the noise and concentrate on the gazelle and the lion," she told herself. "Doesn't matter if you're the gazelle or the lion. When the sun comes up, you just better start running, because running is the means of survival." Adrian's concentration was suddenly broken by someone grabbing onto her. "Stop," said the man holding a whistle and stopwatch. "Only one victory lap allowed." "Victory lap? asked Adrian in confusion. Yes, said the man. You won by a landslide. Listen to the crowd roaring. May I be the first to congratulate you on your new world record? Okay, so you'll see some similarities on both of those passages. You'll note the first one we read was nonfiction, so it's true, it actually happened. The second one is fiction, so it's made up, it's a story. Okay, but you should notice a lot of different similarities between those two. So think about those as you answer those questions. Again, definitely read the questions carefully. Look for the key words in the questions. Read the answer choices carefully. Okay, and also go back and look at your passages. Okay, I did underline some key things. I boxed in some key things. So look for those key details that will help you answer those questions to the best of your ability. Okay. Remember, if you want to, you can do that on the Google form that I will attach to Google Classroom, but you do not have to. Okay. So that's your ELA assignment for Wednesday.